You wanted to see me, sir? Sit down. What is this? Oh, that's our sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles for the Nintendo Switch. I know that! But then why'd you— What happened? Is there something troubling you lately? After your first review, I didn't think we'd have to have this discussion ever again. And I know you're talented. You are a whole thing. You are better than this. So I will ask you again. What is this? Well, I wanted to try out some new ideas. Like an overly anime and shamelessly sexualized art style? What? I like titties. And who's this obnoxious kid with the painfully fake accent voicing your main character? Oh yeah, that's the maintenance guy's nephew. It's his first time doing voices. Figured he'd be cheap. Isn't he great? No, he makes me want to stick my head in a wood chipper. Now, what happened to your sense of creative, compelling storytelling? Like characters and motivations, you know, the plot? Oh, right, I knew I forgot to add something. But instead you added mobile game real-time based grindy missions and a full-blown mandatory gotcha system? Come on now, that's what all the little twerps these days are playing. Nobody is into pointless waiting and progression tied to RNG. Nobody! But our focus group said that our last game needed some more, what was the word? Waifus. So we just Googled that and went from there. Meaning you compromised pretty much everything else, yeah. Everything that made Xenoblade Chronicles good to begin with. Remember what got you into my office last time? Xenosaga 2. And what did we learn? Stop throwing away what works for stupid mechanics that don't. Yes. And how did Xenosaga 3 turn out? Oh yeah, that one was awesome! Because you went back to what worked well with the original and refined and focused it into an all-around better game experience. Right, I remember that. Then why are you in my office again? Well, I thought I'd try out this new waifu thing No, just get out of my sight. And I better not see you in here again come Xenoblade 3. Quit hanging around the wrong crowd and get your life in order! Ugh. It's the ones with promise that disappoint you the most. You're better than this! The original Xenoblade is easily one of my favorite games for the Wii, but I didn't end up playing its sequel until many years later. I mean, first off, the art style was... and the new voice cast. But little did I realize when I'd finally play it, I'd discover how much more there was to make me feel so utterly... Okay, so much to talk about here. So let's start with the basics for a sec. You'll begin like most RPGs by gathering a small party to travel and battle alongside while journeying across multiple living flying titans, unlike the two from the last game. This by no means implies the game is bigger or even grander than before. If anything, it feels significantly less so, as the many titans are all so samey with forgettable names that none of them even hold a candle to the ridiculously colossal Bionis, where exploring a large area felt even more imposing when you'd stop and realize that you're just on the knee. Yeah, it really fed the imagination of this immense scale, whereas the current multi-titan setup actively destroys this effect by segmenting the areas into far less impressive biomes. It also makes fast traveling frustratingly confusing with horrible UI and vague fantasy name area descriptions, and then when it comes to the actual combat, it's also very eerily familiar, yet totally lost all of its zing. You can still have your party break, topple, launch, and smash enemies for extra damage, but it feels a lot more finicky and up to chance to pull off this time. Aside from the fact that they completely redesigned the perfectly functional art system for no good reason. Elemental attacks are now a big deal, with the game encouraging combos for temporary status effects, adding colored balls around the enemies so you can exploit and change their elemental weaknesses, and shatter the glowing balls with opposing elemental bursts in a chain attack to get extra turns in order to... Anybody else getting some serious Xenosaga 2 zone-breaking convolution vibes here? No? Just me? Honestly, it's not the worst system in the world once you figure it out. It's just grossly based on luck in several frustrating battles. But I'd have enjoyed and understood it a lot better had the in-game tutorials actually made any sense. Those constant tutorials won't stop coming even when you're in the final chapter. And they're all written like an enthusiastic grade schooler trying to teach you modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's full of childlike self-flattery and rarely explains bits of crucial information that describe the cumbersome user interface and battle structure. But how do you even access various elements for this new system, you ask? With the new Blade system. While adventuring, you'll acquire core crystals that you can resonate with your party members, except Tora because he's not special, which awakens a unique living character called a Blade that the playable character will swap between and fight alongside for various effects in battles and the overworld. Or well, that can happen. Very rarely. The vast majority of the time, you'll instead awaken a junk common blade that is hilariously outclassed by the unique ones, and looks like a washed out bootleg Power Ranger. These things suck, and you'll go through literal hundreds of these worthless recruits searching for the real ones. Once awakened, you cannot trade blades between party members without rare limited items, so if your attacker gets a great healer, or if your main fire user gets yet another fire, tough. Oh nice, my strength, utility, and strategy potential are all determined by RNG. Considering how it's an RPG and that's the entire point of the game, that kind of pisses me off a little bit! So you can also send your army of crap common blades on merc missions, which are basically mobile game style, wait in real time, do nothing time wasting missions to grind for various imperceptible effects and meager experience, cash, and goodies. I hate this real-time waiting crap in full-priced games, and it doesn't help that deploying merc missions sucks out loud to begin with, as there is no auto-select button, forcing you to weed through heaps of spreadsheets and search out specific traits, types, and abilities that you may or may not even have the credentials to fulfill. It doesn't even have the courtesy to save you all the time of flipping through all 200 Mook's ability pages when it's all for nothing! I haven't even mentioned the worst part about Blades. They're all acquired completely randomly via the mobile game style gacha system. Thank the architect they didn't charge real money for rare and legendary core crystals, or else we'd be straight up gambling with loot crates. Not only that, but your odds of finding different characters changes as you find others, and generally for the worse. I didn't find a single rare blade in my last 60 or so hours of my game, resonating countless common, dozens of rare, and even several legendary core crystals, all juiced up with max boosters to raise my chances for a new blade, and I got nothing. Not one. Does this sound fun? Because remember, this process is determining your team's loadout, and we're still not done with Blades. I am. You'll also encounter roadblocks in both the main campaign as well as side quests that will impede your progress until the gacha gods smile upon you and bless you with the right ability requirements in order to pass. And now tell me, what absolute buffoon thought that was a good idea? And even then, you'll need to manually dig through all of your blades, find and equip the right ones to your party in order to pass, and then immediately dequip them all to your preferred blades until the next hurdle blocks your way. This can't be an oversight, right? It seriously feels like this game was deliberately designed to waste your time. Anyway, there's a lot of other complicated mechanics like AUX cores, favorite foods, providence levels, skill trees, arts ability levels, blade side quests, but they're all so in-depth that they all require you to absorb full-blown wiki pages to even track and understand. I tried so hard to like this game. I really did. But man, that's a lot of skeletons it was hiding in the closet. Generic gray skeletons with fire mastery and mineralogy. Ugh, this blade system was such an enormous mistake. Yeah, and it also kind of weirds me out collecting living, sentient, human-like characters like Pokemon and then forcing them to do battle in a creepy, master, subservient nature. It's like a thief from Skyward Sword was an entire army and... Well, at a base level, this game generally looks like an HD Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but but without most of the grand environmental color palettes. And instead we got intensely anime clashing character designs. Yeah, so the blades were all designed by different artists for some reason, and inevitably this caused them all to lack any consistent central aesthetic. It looks like some high schooler's sketchbook after getting passed around the anime club, contributing to a moe doujinshi with their only inspirations coming from high fantasy hentai and those awful how to draw manga books. Wow, was that enough Japan for one sentence? While eating ramen and pocky. I'm not so much bothered by the wild inconsistency as I am the generally uncomfortable designs. And it's not just the outrageously slutty women either. It's the guys too. I mean, can someone explain to me why Rex is wearing freaking assless chaps? Please? Don't get me started on the women, especially how you practically romance all of them with side story quests. And you thought I was kidding with the prioritizing waifus thing earlier, didn't you? I still like their mech designs, which you see for all of 1% of the game. Whereas you'll be staring down Mithra's Grand Canyon of cleavage and listening to Pyra's yoga butt cheeks clapping in the wind for the rest of it. That's another thing. Why doesn't it seem like anyone in this universe is even remotely fazed by these half-naked cosplaying strippers that they're talking to as if their attire is completely normal? How about the fact that their ages range from barely legal to freaking children? Being attracted to children isn't a fetish, it makes you a pedophile. Okay, now, this is the part that I was most excited about over anything else. This is what was gonna redeem this awkward, shameless teenage wet dream, right? Right? Xenoblade 1's story is surprisingly deep, tricking the player into believing it's a simple revenge plot that slowly dives into various character studies, with several shocking plot twists and critical character-defining moments, throwing the entire story on its head. So it's safe to assume that Xenoblade 2's story would at the very least— No. Just no. This is the most piss-about, do-nothing story I have ever encountered. My problem isn't just that nothing of note or consequence ever happens in the entirety of the story. I don't know, that alone renders all relatability, character potential, and immersion in the game completely inert. It's that not a single character has even a little bit of a defining motivation or ideals that are challenged or grow in any conceivable way. If you don't even have that, then what the heck do you have left? Grade school erotic fan fiction. You're joking, but that's actually not too far from the truth. I wasn't joking. Throughout the entire story, we get scenes with Rex and Pyra, or Mithra, that do nothing but attempt to add awkward sexual tension with sloppily written daydreamy dialogue layered in thick helpings of amateur cringe. It's like watching an aroused Playboy bunny housemaid hitting on a 12-year-old. This happens way more often than it ever should, and it doesn't even go anywhere. Another completely different character even flat out confesses that she loves Rex later on, which comes totally out of nowhere, by the way. And even that gets swept immediately under the rug and goes nowhere. They just forgot about it, as if it just never happened. Honestly, the majority of this story is just constant flattery for Rex from absolutely everybody, and for completely unremarkable reasons blown way out of proportion that we don't even have the privilege of seeing or validating for ourselves. Show us that our main character is the great person that you say he is, and stop just telling us. That's writing 101. Oh, Rex is so amazing and trustworthy and handsome and admirable, and he's such a good friend, and he'll never let you down, and he can do anything, and he makes me so wet. Oh, Rex, hold me. So who is this glorified messiah? Rex is just a common musty junk salvager kid with no friends who does nothing of any real consequence other than be around important people that neurotically remind the player of how great he is. No kidding, we've already explained the majority of the story. But the rest of it is so outrageously bad that we just have to talk about it too. The story begins with Rex receiving a high-paying job out of nowhere that he is in no way cut out for from an obvious joke of a bad guy in order to help recover some mysterious thing from some abandoned wreckage. He's teamed up with the most obviously evil villains in history and a cat girl, because anime. The job obviously goes sour, but not before Rex discovers the dormant Pyra, apparently the object of the search efforts. Rex is suddenly backstabbed and would have died were it not for Pyra awakening fusing her core crystal or something with Rex in order to save his life and bring him back with the two now permanently bonded, sharing in each other's life energy. Man, I cheered when Rex died. Like, I stood up and applauded. He's probably the most hateable main character I've ever had the displeasure of controlling. I also facepalmed when Pyra brought him back to life by, no joke, having Rex touch her chest. So apparently Pyra is the ultimate blade called an Aegis, and the two annihilate the obvious bad guys, team up with Catgirl, and set off on a lax journey to eventually climb the massive world tree and discover the architect, the creator of the world, because Pyra just kinda wants to. So because anime, the main protagonist just so happens to get handed ultimate power in the form of a subordinate half-naked swimsuit model, for absolutely no reason. And don't forget Gramps, his Titan friend that Rex basically treats like a mobile home, who gets downsized and reborn as a cute furry animal companion because anime. Oh my god, are we getting a filler bathhouse episode 2? That's actually a lot more tasteful than their normal clothes, honestly. So it's from here that the characters just kind of mosey around helping people here and there, getting in and out of trouble, meeting new enemies and allies, and basically doing literally anything but advance the plot and go to the world tree. I guess our main quest isn't very important considering how the main characters couldn't even be bothered enough to care. And this is basically the entire game up until the end where they finally get a freaking move on and ascend the world tree. Sure, you swat the obvious bad guys upside the head every now and then, but nothing really comes of it. It's all the side quests, heart-to-hearts, and other stuff that all add up and grate on you with how uninspired they all are. I swear, one quest had me track down a woman's lazy husband and straight up pay him my own money out of my pocket so that he would go home and fix his own oven so his wife could cook. No joke, real quest. I'm also not finding any reason to care about this generic cast of villains either. They're all just kinda evil for the sake of being evil and want to destroy everything just because that's what it said to do in the How to Be an Edgy Bad Guy handbook. Their awfully delivered corny dialogue sure didn't help either. So after 100 or so hours of distracted dilly-dallying, the group finally heads towards the world tree. And what do they do to justify all this complete and utter lack of meaningful story content? Is it worth the arduous journey of dicking around for over 100 hours? Well, here's your incoming spoiler warning and skip time, all you hairless hardcore otaku wankers! As for the rest of you who stopped caring a long time ago, they meet the architect, who turns out to be Klaus from Xenoblade 1, who undeniably receives his power from a Zohar, taken straight from Xenogears and Xenosaga, and that's pretty cool. Kind of a shame that the best thing in the story could do was reference good games, but I digress. Turns out when Klaus created a new universe, he was somehow torn between his own and a new neighboring dimension, but he still held ultimate power in both somehow. And this is at best a fun reference, just kind of tying the games together since nothing actually comes of this. Because obvious villain number 2 found a giant mech that was kind of laying around and totally wants to go use it to hurt people and stuff. So you gotta fight it and kill him, because we needed an obligatory final boss at the end of this pointless excursion. After murdering that guy for the 3rd or 4th time now, I honestly forget at this point, the entire world tree begins to collapse, and blatantly ripping off the ending of Xenosaga, Pyra, who's blue now when fused with Mithra, just don't question it, does some self-sacrificial stay behind while the group escapes thing before the whole place goes kablooey. Gramps then suddenly turns back into a Titan trailer home for absolutely no reason other than for him to catch the falling party and fly away. But remember how Rex and Pyra were bonded, and if one felt pain or died, the other would as well? Well, the writers sure didn't, and in fact, they forgot about this plot device multiple times throughout the game. I remember Pyra trying to annihilate herself with a massive explosion to keep obvious bad guy number 3 from harming Rex in a hostage situation, even though it would kill them both outright. It's like the game just keeps making up the rules and either breaking them or forgetting about them immediately, filling the game with lazy plot holes like this. We even find out that Pyra only wanted to visit the architect to ask him to end her existence, which completely doesn't fit the way she's written in the slightest, considering she's written to be a comforting, shy waifu for all the lonely weebs. But still, if she really had this power to blow herself up the whole time, then what the heck did she need this creepy old man for? Seriously, all he does is just fart around in a massive isolated tower and sculpt his own personal fantasy world of waifus while humanity dies. What an old horny douchebag! But oh, I hear you say, at least a self-sacrificial ending is some sort of character development for Pyra. Well, we can't have that now, can we? Prepare to have any semblance of meaning to the entire plot subverted as Pyra and Mithra are both inexplicably brought back to life independently in a completely unexplained magical fairy dust happy ending sort of way during the end credits. That seriously pissed me off. I shouldn't have expected much or even cared anymore, but that completely destroyed any impact of their sacrifice carrying any weight whatsoever. And bringing them back doesn't even add anything to the story or its characters, other than having Rex fulfill his FFM fantasies, I guess. Now, what pissed me off was the snub chapter titles, culminating with, and I kid you not, and thus boy met girl. As if this masturbatory piss-about plot packed to the brim with nothing but self-flattery and characters as undefined as cardboard cutouts could even be accidentally considered to be a romance in any conceivable way. If anything, I feel like they were trying to compensate for the lack of any effective romantic tension whatsoever by having Pyra and Mithra be so outrageously sexualized that any straight guy would be embarrassed around them. Rex should feel the same way once he hits puberty. There's also a tremendous amount of cutscenes throughout the game where they play this goofy cartoon music in what I can only assume are scenes that are supposed to be interpreted as amusing in some way. All I can tell you is that after all of its desperate attempts, this game wasn't even accidentally funny. The moments where you realize that the game is kind of taking place in the real human world post-apocalypse is kind of neat for what it's worth, but there's just no build-up or payoff to make it have any weighty impact. Like, you know, any plot twist from Xenoblade 1? The true travesty with this story is that it was clearly written for a bunch of pre-constructed characters first, who were all shoved together awkwardly into a plot where none of them were given the opportunity to grow or change. And thus, gamer met disappointment. Ugh. Normally this stuff is phenomenal, but okay, come on, this segment should be easy. They even have Yasunori Mitsuda returning from the previous Xeno games, making some really great music. He's the guy behind freaking Chrono Trigger. Music isn't what I'm concerned about here, even though I honestly found some tracks to be a little ear grating. Don't miss the rotting trees for the forest. I'm not sure you used that correctly. It's the voice acting and sound mixing that are just hit or miss at best. Oh yeah, that. Crap, I forgot. I thought we'd have one segment where we didn't dump all over this game. Some voice actors are fine, but others desperately need to rethink their careers. They all have various forced and awkward accents that don't fit into a singular world in the way that the Xeno universe does. Now, if each province had different clans of subtly different accents like in The Witcher, I might buy it. But no, it's all just a case-by-case, everybody plays accent roulette grab bag of garbage. On top of that, your party members want to chit-chat and comment about every little insignificant thing to each other, continually repeating the same lines, but without any of the cool interdependent affinity levels like last time. One of the very first things I did in Chapter 1 was turn off their ability to speak outside of cutscenes. It was that bad. And the worst offender by a freaking light year is, you guessed it, Rex. His absolutely obnoxious voice with this incredibly thick pish-posh Manchester accent just makes me want to squeeze my hands around his tiny little neck and crush his accursed vocal cords like uncooked linguine noodles. That's a little extreme. He's just a bad voice actor. What sucks is that he's playing the main character, who's already lacking in reasons to find likable in any way. It's a new day, everyone. Oh, please don't. Chip, chip, cheerio. Ugh. God save the Queen. No, man. No, I'm not doing this. No way. Oh, come on. Yeah, it's what? It's at best inoffensive. Is that the best you can do? If you soaked up the vastly superior Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, or even the definitive edition on the Switch, then I guess it's something else you can play in the same series. Look, there are countless better RPGs to sink your time into on Switch than this absolute waste. There is also the massive DLC pack, Torn of the Golden Country, for maniacs who like throwing even more money away instead of accepting their poor judgment and purchasing decisions and moving on with their life. It's, at best, inoffensive. Ah! The positive gamer in me reluctantly reflects on my utter disdain for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with a 2 out of 10. The awful gameplay, art style, story, and voice acting all pulled down what should have been a Switch masterpiece into a miserable slog. The critical gamer in me is trying so hard to ignore my personal misgivings with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to give it a fair 5 out of 10. Though it's carrying a lot of horrendous baggage, it's still built on the foundation of a great title, and structurally I see them canceling each other out, landing exactly in the middle of the road with a very hesitant average score. But what do you think? Tell us what your positive and critical sides think of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in the comments below. I thought I was in for a great time, but ended up playing a miserable game so you all didn't have to. Forget this one and go play the first game. Because if you're delusional enough to pretend that this game's crimes against quality can be ignored, hey, my eyes are up here. And you're just playing with yourself. Oh, I wanted you to be good so bad. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and use the links in the description to nominate your own episode. And thank you to all of our Patreon members, Atomic Thomas, Cameron, Arrow, Rowan, Erica, Shiam, Minya, Sid, Squad Fam, and Crystal. Booyah!